Welcome, Daryl. Welcome, Teresa.
The Gmail invite worked well, and then accessing Meet-In through the invite was easy.
Oh, good, good. I'm going to mute guests. Okay, and turn off Teresa. We'll get back to that later. I'm just loading up the widgets here, and as we're streaming live for the fasting escapade of the day, let's get this happening here.
Faces in the place, feel the rhythm in your soul. Ageless warriors, alliance, come and make yourself whole. From every corner, every land, a spirit strong and true, seeking wisdom, seeking strength, a journey fresh and new. No matter what your story or the battles you have known, here among these kindred souls, you'll never walk alone. Welcome, welcome, ageless warrior, to the family big and wide. Feel the heartbeat of the rhythm, let your worries cast aside. With open arms and a joyful sound, we greet you standing tall. Ageless warriors, alliance, answering freedom's call. Share our laughter, share our tears, our triumphs and our strife, building bonds that stand the years, celebrating life. It's force a note, each heart a beat, a symphony we raise, through every challenge bittersweet, in these united days. Welcome, welcome, ageless warrior, to the family big and wide. Feel the heartbeat of the rhythm, let your worries cast aside. With open arms and a joyful sound, we greet you standing tall. Ageless warriors, alliance, answering freedom's call. Rise up with purpose bright, let your inner fire bleed. Empowerment in every step.
Hey, welcome, Ageless Warriors. So I'm your host, Benedict Howard, longevity architect, and today we're gonna dive through, and I'm gonna guide you through one of the most lied about tools and medical tools in human history: the fasting, the millennia-proven and completely misrepresented by the system designed to keep you dependent. Today, I'm giving you the absolute best, and it's free. No supplements, no subscriptions, no sick care gatekeepers, just the truth your biology and your mindset has been waiting for. In the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to condense 4 decades of self-experimentation into one honest briefing, including graph data from my own fasting experiences here in 2026 and previously in 2023. And the core programming behind my emotional overeating addiction and what actually happened when I came off my last 4-day fast about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It wasn't pretty. And, well, people had warned me, but actually, I wasn't listening. I'm still learning, even though I've been fasting for probably a decade. So we're moving past the fallacious theories, past the endless excuses, and straight into they lied to you about fasting. This isn't just about health. This is about the fastest, surest way to literally reset your body. Fasting for around 18 hours a day, and you can cleanse out the old crap, fire up the body's central processing unit, the nervous system, and unlock peak mitochondrial performance because we've got less gunk in the way. We're talking that 30 million volts per meter of cellular power. And it's not a metaphor, it's actually biology. And it's the fastest, surest way to blossom out of the corporate fetal position, or that fetal position that we get into. Because that's where most people are right now, curled up, medicated, managed, dependent on the sick care system that profits from your confusion and your compliance. Fasting is an act of sovereignty. Yeah, it's very humbling. It costs nothing. It requires no prescription, and it terrifies an industry built on your decline. So listen, stay with me to the very end, because the Ageless Warrior Alliance members here live today get my one-page executive fasting checklist download. You'll want that. And if you missed last week, Who the F is Benedict Howard, check out that at my site. That briefing covers my early sound environment research. And this week we go deeper into the real data from my own fasting experiences in February 26. So get out your pen and notebook, take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. And empty the mind. Each Sunday briefing is a new tool, researched over 40 years, tested on myself first, sometimes for many years, and then refined in my health and longevity clients. Bottom line, stop treating the symptoms like a victim and start architecting your biology, your life, for a resilient, unshakable, unbreakable in equilibrium. And like and subscribe, help this message reach the families and friends out there who need it most. So if you're ready, hey, let's go, warriors. So one of the big ones that I've been going into on most of these podcasts is this indoctrination stuff. And, you know, yeah, I am that rebellious 74-year-old and challenging the medical fallacies. But before I can go there, I need to walk the talk, right? And I need to walk that walk too. So in learning how to fast, it hasn't been easy. And one of the things that I was, like most people, very confused as to calories and this, that, and the other. And so I did a very long study, about 5 months, of meticulously, and I'll show it to you in a moment, meticulously recording data like this. Data in a huge spreadsheet that was like, for each month, it was columns and columns. And I was measuring the intake, and down below that page is like different recipes that I was cooking regularly. So I had all the data on that. So I kept this data, and because of AI now, I've been able to really analyze that data. So we'll get back to that in a moment. One of the things that you need to consider is the daily eating window. And here's a blueprint basically for it. You know, if you can do that 17, 15, 13, where you begin at and progress over the weeks, you know, so it's really important that the body gets that time to stay on in autophagy, which is basically the elimination of dead pieces of matter in the body, and or recycling them in the elimination. And that autophagy is hugely. And the other thing is, when you get yourself like into well over 12 hours, let's say, you give that the insulin resistance stuff that happens with snacking time that it doesn't need to kick the insulin in. And so what that does is it brings on the digestion of fat. So here we have like a, no food 3 hours before sleep. What I try to do here is no food 3 hours or more before sunset. And the reason for that is the circadian rhythm. It gives it, and if you do eat, late in the day, do exercise afterwards, it has a phenomenal amount of benefits in terms of like that glucose spiking that would normally be happening. So lunch, carbs, breakfast, some people say it's the biggest. I like to have my breakfast at around 10 or 11 or 12. And then I'm finishing up my fasting by 10 plus 4. So that'd be by 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And what I do is I keep data, just like here. This is February 26th, the 31st, the beginning of February. And I keep data on how much I sleep, how many squats I do in the day, how many hours I'm on my book, how many hours I fast. And in this date span, you see I fasted 24, 24, 24, and there was another 24 the week before. So it was a very high fasting week. And then I just recently put that into an infographic, and I think I've got the right one here. We will see in the next moment. And this one takes a while to load. That's what it was. So, and then over the weeks, what I can do with this data is I can put it into AI, just take a photograph of it, and it will plot out a graph or an infographic detailing what's been going on. So looks like that one's not loading. So let's move to this one. So this is my personal wellness dashboard, this 5-week activity and health trends. And I'm not going to bore you with every detail on here, but essentially what it's saying is that, there were 611 hours fasted over that period. And there are sleep values, squats I completed, the miles I jogged, and the increasing inhaler, Ventolin or asthma inhaler that happened in late February. And that's after I came off this place where I've got a bunch of fasting going on. January 24, inhaling puffs. Where's the fasting? Can't see it. Yeah, I was fasted right in front of me there. And then you can see what's been going on with that. So when I was fasting a lot, like in that 4-day fast, the inhaler volume or frequency dropped right down. And then I came off that fast, and boy, did I crash. And yeah, get up, move over here. And I really crashed. And that is what I want to really help to explain to you, because when I crash, there is a definite sequence of inflammatory response that that I want to sort of detail to you. And it's kind of hodgepodge the way I haven't arranged it here. But one of the things that was happening is that my system got so clogged up that I didn't feel like running. I didn't feel like doing any exercise. In fact, I quit doing 2 of my weekly long form Ashtanga yoga sessions. I was like, and when I did try them, I got super dizzy. And it's kind of an interesting experience. I'm very used to going out of body because of the upper back injury that I had. But in this dizziness, you get like this rush across your chest of energy and up your neck and up your ears. And that's the energy rebalancing with the ether state that we've been talking about in most of these Sunday briefings. And then would be like heart rate would be up. I would be just holding on to something until the dizziness passed and actually enjoying it in a weird way. But it is kind of interesting because you're really connected into that space. So that's how clogged my system was. And when I went into a deep forward bend, for instance, or one of the one-legged forward bend poses, which is really difficult, The exiting out of that pose and standing up again was like, you're like, oh, I'm way out of it. So that's one of the things that happens to me. The other thing that happens is the areas that are compromised in me, like my hip, will start to hurt, or my lower back will start to hurt. And if I don't catch this in the bud, my energy and my depression, my mental state begins to go up. And that's the reason for the inflammation on the brain. It clogs up the fog, makes it foggy, etc. So, and then later on, actually, maybe I should start, well, later on, this sequence, this one sequence over the last few weeks. It was not easy. And, and so what I was doing to help with this, and kind of like I use my body as an experiment, I'd found that berberine root, ground berberine root, was really good. If I took it at the end of the last meal, it really helped me. And if I was so sugared out from too many nuts and too much dried fruits, I would have night sweats even, and the berberine would prevent that. But I don't want to live in the place of dependency on some other substance. And I think neither would you. Because once the body is really cleaned out, then you can really tell, you know, what's going on in your body, and you want to maintain that place, that elation, that connection, that clarity, that no pain. And literally over extended fast, you know, over that 2+ days, you know, compromised tissues will literally start to regrow and reconnect from the plethora of endorphins that are released. Not only that, but you got like stem cell production, etc., and they're undifferentiated stem cells, so that they can go to any organ or any joint or anything in the body and will repair it. In fact, a quick little side note here, Dr. Londo has, who's made me the grandfather of fasting, had a friend who fell off a ladder, and he was paraplegic in a wheelchair, and his friend who knew about fasting fasted for 41 days. By the end of that, he could get around holding on to things, and he improved over time, and he was actually able to drive. And that was just with the power of fasting. The sad part of that story is that his hand and finger and motor locations went that quick, and he went off the road and was killed. Really sad story, right? If he had had the electrical stim, he could have regrown those nerves back to the brain. So that's just a side note there on that. And you can look at one of the earlier videos where we're talking about the 30 million volts per meter. So the other thing from berberine, which I haven't done for the longest time, is I started using hydrogen. And I have this hydrogenator that you see bubbling through the glass there. And I started taking the hydrogenated water a few days back. If I look at my notes here, I can tell you exactly. And just drinking that hydrogenated water. In fact, I have this bottle here that I have is already hydrogenated. And when I drink it, let me try and describe the difference. I can feel the way that the water flows up into the upper mouth and up into my brain, and then down my throat, and then down into my esophagus and down. But it has a quickness to that way that it moves through the tissues. It's very bright and energy inspiring. In fact, yesterday, I think it was, I was like making a video about this, and I drank it to give a comparison. It was like, oh, I think I drank most of the bottle. At the end of that, it was like, I'm going for a run. And actually, it was one of the first runs. I've been walking daily, but it was like I couldn't run anymore, couldn't jog anymore. So, what I do know, because I've fasted so often, and this is basically my safety curtain, what I do know is that I can get my health back, right? So, very quickly with the fasting. So I know I can get it back. This time I'm going to stick around, and I've been getting better, but I just want to see how long it's going to take. Getting better. And that way I can just monitor how much, what's the word? Monitor what it takes for me to feel better. So yesterday I did do my full Ashtanga yoga. It took me 3 hours to get through the practice, which normally takes an hour and a half. And so here's some of the things that, you might want to add into your fasting routine. Basically, when you feel hungry, drink water, right? And just flush and flush. Now, I don't use any electrolytes. I don't use any binders. And I don't have a sauna, but I do run in the full noonday sun. So that is kind of like that. But the sauna actually is the fastest way of detoxing from the body. I think it's like many hundreds of times quicker than other methods. So just bear that in mind. So we have binders, I guess, to clean out the colon. And, there's been all sorts of doctors over the years who, have really written incredible books and testimony and working with patients over the day, with fasting and getting phenomenal results. And just in the last, actually since 2017, the number of papers that have been published has just gone up exponentially about fasting and the benefits of fasting. So what I also referred to was, you remember the spreadsheet I showed you? So that was the daily longevity activity spreadsheet over, what was it? It was over 6 months. And, there were 183 days tracked, 260 miles that I jogged, 3,150 minutes of yoga. And I got really, quote, anal on this. But this study really helped me understand what was going on in my body. And what I found was that some of the foods, or some of the oils, and I've always eaten good oils, but even with good oils, you still get this problem. When I have too much oils in my system, a few days later, the pain will just hit me. And so that daily reaction makes it kind of like difficult. And if I hadn't done this longitudinal study, that wouldn't have shown up. So, there's data in there on, the nutrition that I was doing, and the fasting that I was doing. Average daily alcohol units, well under 1 unit per day average across the study. Yeah, so I was drinking a little bit. I drink very little bit right now. So this is 2023, 2024. And so the key observations of that longitudinal study were, those escalating HIIT, and I had my first full Ashtanga practice was achieved, which was, I was getting back into that practice at that time. I was also managing sunlight. I was playing a lot of golf. Actually, I have a putting green down below, and this refers to hole-in-one on the putting green, not from the tee. And the fasting, and then areas to watch. So it gave me what you do with this data when you come into coaching and me mentoring with you. We keep this data so that we can set goals, and we can monitor goals, and we can hold ourselves accountable through that. The nutrition and the fasting. Oh, we did that one, right? Let's move down. Key observations, positive change. Oh yeah, here we go. I think I got this twice in there. And so here's the results, it's too much to discuss here, but essentially what it does is it gives you some data that you can really move with. And that's what really made the big difference to me understanding that my nutrition, although I was eating organic and I was fasting and, you know, all of that stuff was good, but I've still had a bunch of pain in my body at that time that was beyond manageable. And I was confused as to why, and, you know, I was confused as to what the nutritional thing had to do with it all. And so that's why I did that. Very anal. It took me about 3 hours a day to weigh everything out. And so it was a lot of time and effort that I put into that. But it gave me the backbone to understanding, and also to train others or to assist others or hold their hands for working through their own health and fasting stuff. So the extended support, the unheard doctors, and where was the other stuff? There was one other one in there, I thought. Maybe not. I'm going to see if I can load up my data as we're sitting here. And yeah, here we go. This one really shows it well. So that was the previous 35 days of keeping, oops, these records. Let's see if the camera can grab it. These records in my little spiral binder here. And this shows actually the fasting peak a little bit better. And now I don't need 7 hours of sleep a night. And the AI keeps on putting me into that 7-hour bracket. I can get by with 6 hours average very comfortably. The the activity and the squats and the jogging and the workload that I've suddenly had to do on the computer really has changed. And I think that was part of what was going on in me. But the real big part was coming to an understanding, and this is kind of raw what I'm going to share with you. In fact, maybe I should pull it up on my phone here. It's what happens when I go into the overeating mode? What is it that keeps tripping me up? And 2 nights ago, I went into deep seek and I laid it all out. The self-sabotage inquiry question. The long, thick, and short of actually a lot of, a lot of questions and answers, where it was like working with a therapist. And in those questions and answers, the long, thick, and short of it is that you just became your own healer. Look at the sequence. You spoke to the child, and it was doing inner child work with me. Not with fixing, not with advice, with presence. And my quote was, "I feel so sad for you." Then you gave him what he never got, the protection. And I came back with, "Hey, I got your back. It's all okay now." Now, during all of this stuff over here, it was so precise that I was in tears, were gushing. I was having a really good release. And and it was like really beautiful. And it was like the mirror is the stray dog that came into my life on New Year's Eve. The dog is your mirror. He arrived on New Year's Eve, a threshold moment, dragging a chain, slept under the cabin, broken, scarred, and the runt of the pack. You fed him, you walked him, you greeted him. And now he's healthy. He follows you everywhere. He greets you always. And that's what is possible for me and you. Not because someone else will do it, because you already know how. You just didn't know you were allowed to be the recipient of my own care, or your own care. So we laid out a morning practice. Wake up, gratitude, For what? The dog, for the land, for the body, the fast, the jogs, for the cabins, for the vision, for the book in my hands, which I'm writing, etc. And the connection to source, that I'm pretty happy with that. However, that lives for you, the nature, the silence, the breath, and the space between the thoughts. And then it went on to saying, look in the mirror in the morning and say to your inner child, I got you back. I got your back. It's okay now. And it's not advice, not lessons, just presence and protection, which I perceived I didn't get. So if we go back to the indoctrination stuff, this is the cunningness of the indoctrination. You don't even know you got it. You don't even know the programs that are running you. And I'm so grateful to have found this clarity for my fasting and clarity for my overeating. And yeah, it's what a journey life is, guys. So I'm going to end out here, and then we're going to go into the one-on-one sessions. Oh, we got 3 people in. Great. So as we conclude today's briefing, let's look at how far we've come. First, get off the social media grid and onto my email list. The social media censorship is real, and I will not let an algorithm stand between you and this information. Grab the first chapter of my book at the link below. And this is the first act of sovereignty. The link is at benedichoward.com, BENEDICKHOWARD.com. So let's recap what we just talked about. Maybe you came in thinking that you know about fasting, and maybe you've even tried it, and maybe you've crashed. I've crashed many times. And maybe you overeat and felt like failure and crawled back into the comfortable numbness of the routine the system built for you. That's the corporate fetal position, curled up, compliant, waiting for the doctor to tell you what your own body already fucking knows. And so today we blew that open. You now understand why your body crashed, and that it wasn't weakness, it was psychology. You have the feeding protocol, you have the data, you have the truth. The fasting industry, buried because of your confusion, is their business model. We're moving from theory to tools, real tools, tested on this body for 40 years. So your weekly challenge, begin with your maybe 18-hour fast, wherever you are, just begin in that fasting window and increasing it over the next weeks, or week and then month. And one day, track how you're going to feel. How you doing? How you're coming out? And write it all down. The data is yours, not your doctor's, not your pharmacist's. It's yours. So do due diligence on that. And if you're ready to go deeper, and if you haven't already, book your one-on-one nervous system blueprint session with me today, and we'll map your unique biological terrain. And over the coming weeks, we will continue this rebellion, maximizing your health naturally, without supplements, without the sick care gatekeepers, with nothing but radical personal accountability and my 40 years of field-tested science. The next session, the Q&A session, is reserved for Ageless Warriors Alliance members. But let me first check the YouTube and Facebook chats for questions. And let's see if I can find that. Go to YouTube.com. Yep, that looks promising. Oh, have I spelled it right? What's this doing? I want YouTube. Okay, let's see if I can find the live stream. History playlist, watch later, liked your videos. And your videos uploads live. Yeah, I don't see anything. Oh, there's 4 views. Oh, cool. So it's people seeing stuff over there, but there's no questions. And I'm not gonna waste your time whilst I doodle around. I'll catch up with those questions later. So go forth, question everything, stop curling up and start standing up and inside your own biology first. Architect your longevity. The corporate fetal position ends today. Warrior Benedict, over and out.